All right, well, thank you for your patience. I would like to open this Polk County Board of Commissioners. It is August 10th, 2022. Extra agendas are on the back table by the door. I'm looking for comments, not on this agenda. Hearing none, we'll look for the approval of agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Look for approval of minutes from July 3rd.
So moved. July 3rd?
August 3rd. How about August 3rd?
I'll second.
Great.
I'll actually move that one.
Good. Okay. I'll second it. Good
All those
catch.
in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval passes and approval of consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval passes. Next up is length of service awards. Mr. Matt Hawkins.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We do have several employees that we'd like to recognize today for lengths of service to the county. I think it'd be easiest to probably start with those that are present with us today. So in no particular order, but first we'd like to recognize Dana Goodale for 10 years of service to Polk County in our Family and Community Outreach Department. You get both and shake hands and all the fun stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being awesome.
Set the speech part, right?
Oh, yeah.
20 minutes set aside.
You don't have it ready
What?
to speak?
There's no speech. Thank you.
Very firm. I like that command presence.
Quick and to the point.
So now our next person's on notice that speeches are required.
We have 20 minutes set aside. for the agenda.
We would also like to recognize for 10 years of service, Cindy Rettler in our Public Health Department. You should get you ask for an extra 2 years due to COVID.
I can send you something. If it's out learning about the print of that part.
I'm going to go on the record and recognize the next ones. The next one is a bit of a loser. He's not here today. I can say that because I'm his supervisor. I'll have to have a conversation with him, but we would like to recognize Heath Cumnick for 10 years of service to Polk County. And to be fair, he is far from a loser. He has only made my job easier. And finally, we would like to recognize Rachel Nail for 20 years of service to Polk County. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Rachel and Heath. So next time we'll see you in person. Next up is public hearing for the psilocybin consideration. I'd like to open this consideration. So we want to do the public comment first on this.
You can either do a staff report or you can basically open the public comment and hearing.
Maybe if we do the staff report first and then the public comment can follow afterwards. Would that be Mr. Morgan?
Morgan, are you prepared for a report on this?
I can give a quick report. Yeah. Morning, commissioners. So I provided a memo with some quick background information, but I'll do the highlights for it right now. Approximately almost 2 years ago, Measure 109 was passed in Oregon, which legalized the use of psilocybin for therapeutic purposes, essentially in conjunction with some form of therapy. And with that passage of Measure 109, it created essentially two different types of uses or businesses, which would be one would be psilocybin manufacturing, and the other would be the actual psilocybin service centers, where psilocybin would be delivered to a patient under the supervision of a licensed individual from the state, or an individual licensed by the state. They were given the state essentially given 2 years to develop some administrative rules on how this program is going to be kind of rolled out, and to date they have not done so. And that's kind of background for the decision we're at today. Measure 109 also permitted the ability for any jurisdiction, city or county, to opt out of allowing any psilocybin service centers or manufacturing within their jurisdiction. To do so, to pass an ordinance that refer the matter to the voters of that particular jurisdiction. So that is the question before you all today, and that we'll be taking comment on is whether the county has a desire to send the matter of banning these businesses to the voters to see what the voters' will is on this particular issue. The main, I think, point of frustration across the state for most jurisdictions that are considering opting out of psilocybin businesses is the lack of state regulations. At this point, it's unclear how it would fit in with two different uses, how they would fit in with our existing land use system for each jurisdiction. More specifically, the one main pain point that we see is the ability to have psilocybin service centers in conjunction with manufacturing and how that would occur potentially on resource land. We just don't know because we don't have the state rules yet. And so when you're looking at the option of sending something to the voters, there's kind of three main options. You can do a permanent ban on all psilocybin businesses, or you could put a sunset clause in it. Most places are looking at a 2-year sunset clause if that's the route they want to take, and that'll allow the state to get their administrative rules in place for the implementation of the program and then allow us to develop our own timelines and matter regulations. Alternatively, we cannot send the matter to the voters and simply let the program roll out come January under whatever the state regulations are. We just don't know what they are yet. That's what we're taking kind of public comment on today. All that's needed from the board at the conclusion of the meeting, of the hearing today, is direction to staff for what you would like us to prepare for a subsequent approval or not approval next Wednesday. I prepared some draft ordinance language and ballot title information to your consideration. That's the route the board wants to take. And if the board does so choose, we can have that prepared for final approval by the board next week. Any questions?
Hey, Morgan, I want to ask this a question or two, just in case we lose your connection. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
So the consideration between permanent and temporary ban, what would be the process at the end of a temporary ban for the board to take? Let's just take the hypothetical, the state doesn't get it right, or we still see other challenges. What would be the process that we have available to us at that point?
Entirely unclear. It's an excellent question. The other option to consider is if either a temporary or permanent ban, if they are enacted by the voters of the county, that can be undone by you all at the board of commissioner level at a point back out to the voters, and you can go ahead and essentially opt into the psilocybin program simply by board action at some point. So if there's concerns that 2 years isn't enough, we have no idea what's going to happen in the future, you still are, consciously optimistic about what the program is going to offer to our citizens, then we can go for a permanent ban, and in such time you get comfortable with the state regulation system, you can essentially undo the ban by board action. You not have to sign time limit.
Thank you.
Anyone would like to address this, come up table, give us your name and address, and the mic could be yours.
Definitely thank the board commissioners for allowing me to speak here today. I'm this time of day, and I've been the chief compliance officer and head of operations for Viola Brands for 10 years. We have a cannabis farm at 3650 Lucas Road, All City, 9734, but it is county. We have pumped over $10 million into the Polk County economy since 2017. Proud of that. Richard Saunders, a 20-plus year resident of unincorporated Polk County, has been running day-to-day operations since the beginnings. We provided quality living wage jobs to Polk County residents with salaries of up to 6 figures annually. Currently, 100% of our employees are Polk County residents. Richard Saunders and I are hoping to open a psilocybin business in unincorporated Polk County that could have a similar financial impact as the Viola Farm. I'm here to ask the Board of Commissioners to not take action regarding ballot measure 109 at this time, and to instead allow unincorporated Polk County residents and businesses to opt in and participate as pioneers in order to revolutionary psilocybin industry. Unfortunately, the way that the voting is set up in Polk County, there's not a proper way to hold a vote that only gathers the will of unincorporated Polk County residents that would determine their own fate with ballot measure 109. The board's proposed vote that could put a 2-year ban on participation in measure 109 would be determined by the larger population of Polk County voters who have either already voted on the matter or have the opportunity to vote on the matter regarding what happens in their cities. Polk County, unincorporated Polk County residents do not have that. Luxury. This is not fair to unincorporated Polk County. It's my understanding the board is proposing this vote for the county primarily because the rules have yet to be finalized and thus there's concern for public safety. However, the board has also acknowledged that the board has the power to enact time, place, and manner restrictions on psilocybin businesses if any of the rules that are established are concerning to the board. If a 2-year ban does get enacted, there are possible consequences in unincorporated Polk County that the board may have not considered. One, the temporary ban may result in us being left out of the industry for many years beyond the temporary ban. For instance, there may be an indefinite moratorium placed on granting new psilocybin business licenses that could be enacted by the state after the program ends, similar to what happened to the cannabis industry. This moratorium is still in place today. If this happens, we could get left out of the psilocybin program indefinitely. Also, number 2, businesses may be discouraged from ever opening shop in unincorporated Polk County. Businesses who get into the industry, businesses who get into a new industry early have the advantage of being first to market. They get to establish their brand, operations, and clients before more competition arrives. The amount of time needed for planning, fundraising, building, and hiring that's involved in opening a new business will discourage businesses from wanting to maybe eventually operate in unincorporated Polk County. They will lose the advantage of being first to market, take the businesses elsewhere. 2 examples that I have mentioned could prevent unincorporated Polk County from reaping the benefits of quality jobs, millions of dollars in revenue, and the revolution in therapeutic services she can offer. I wonder if the board's concern for public safety that has been noted as central worry that psilocybin businesses be regulated or exist in a similar way to the recreational cannabis industry. As the board knows, the rules that will be finalized have to adhere to the guidelines that have been established by Measure 109. And there's some key differences in the laws that keeps the psilocybin industry a truly medical model and that are mindful of public safety. Additionally, there are positive elements of the psilocybin industry outside of laws codified from Measure 109 that help differentiate it as well. Psilocybin versus recreational cannabis. The cultivation of psilocybin has to happen indoors. There's no scent that disturbs the neighbors, and it does not require a large amount of electricity to cultivate. Also, there are clinics or service centers and not dispensaries. There are not going to be retail style stores where products are chosen by customers who then consume psychotropic inducing amounts of psilocybin on site. Macrodoses of psilocybin will be administered on site only by people trained and certified by the state to do so. Most clinical models will include licensed therapists participating in treatments. This is truly a medical and not recreational model and will have a different type of clientele. Clientele will be patients seeking life-changing treatments that will replace current ineffective drugs available by the pharmaceutical industries. These will be veterans who have PTSD, everyday people suffering from depression, anxiety, traumatic brain injuries, ADHD, OCD. These will be people who are at the end of their life and are looking to remove their fear. Finally, since Oregon is the first state to regulate psilocybin in our country and offer these treatments to people over the age of 21, we will see an uptick in tourism, which equals additional revenue from tourists. These tourists will be people seeking treatments who can't get it in other states. They will spend money at hotels, restaurants, Airbnbs, auto rentals, shuttles, and so on. Nature of the psilocybin therapies themselves, coupled with the basic guidelines put forth by Measure 109, provide a truly medical model for the psilocybin industry to work. This medical model will not pose a threat to public safety. If any rules are released that cause concern for the board, it has the power to place time, place and manner restrictions on licensees prior to any psilocybin licenses being issued in unincorporated Polk County. Again, unfortunately, there is not a way to have a separate vote by only unincorporated Polk County residents to determine their fate for participation in Oregon's revolutionary psilocybin industry. Therefore, the proposed ordinance to be put on the ballot in November is not fair to unincorporated Polk County residents.
Anyone else like to address the board? Come on. State your name and address.
I'm here because I'm a registered voter and I didn't vote to allow psilocybin therapies. And I'm concerned that not everybody has control over what we decide for unincorporated county. But as Mr. Day was explaining, the cities have already, a lot of them have already opted out. And so, in my opinion, it doesn't feel fair that they should have the ability to vote on what we're allowed to do with our properties. Also, I have microdosed for a little while. I haven't for about 4 months now. But I wanted to point out that my father, who's elderly and had some strokes, he's 85, and he suffers from depression and a TBI. And he decided he would like to start microdosing. So I give him a tiny little bit in his low protein shake that I make him in the morning. And when he has that, he's able to get out of bed, he's able to interact with the family, he just has an overall better feeling. And he is probably pretty close to the end. And it's really important for me that he's able to get these kind of therapies as he nears the end, just to make him feel better. You know, I've been so concerned about his mental state, especially after the strokes. He doesn't do anything that he used to like to do. So the fact that he can even get out of bed and interact with the family with just this tiny little bit is almost miraculous. And I just really would like it if we had the ability to have the psilocybin therapies in the unincorporated. I think it would be beneficial to so many other people. And for me, I'm a little nervous today because I haven't spoken public in a long time. So I apologize for that. But for me, as I age and I started to go through menopause, I've noticed some changes where my brain and my mouth don't seem to be connected. Like I triple in my words sometimes. And when I microdose, it seemed to clear those connections. And I was able to speak more freely, explain myself better, and just handle like everyday little crises that come up with ease. It just has made my quality of life better without messing with my head. And so really, I just hope that you would not put it on the ballot so that we can just automatically opt in, that we can establish some therapy centers, and we can actually utilize this fungus as the benefit that it really is.
Thank you.
So I have a question before you go. Thank you. Since you've opened the door now on this, you're microdosing yourself
Yes, sir.
and another family member. So you're currently accessing product today.
Yes.
How are you doing that?
I would prefer not to say.
Okay, but it is accessible, right? I mean, you're getting it.
It's very difficult. Unless you can start producing your own, which isn't something that I know much about yet.
Okay,
I'm
and
just learning.
you're doing it through a licensed clinician?
No, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, again, part of this is about licensed clinicians as well, but
Right. And I
um,
would prefer to do that because I feel like if we go on through it's going to be a little safer for people. I trust my source, but I wouldn't just like try to find it on the street. I wouldn't know the first thing about that. And this was presented to me as an opportunity. It was something I was actually looking for. But I prefer not.
I guess my question though is, I don't need you to name names of anybody. I'm not interested in that, but I'm just looking for pathways to support the science eventually. And again, I haven't heard from any clinicians. I haven't heard, from anybody locally. I've seen some study information. But hopefully you've got somebody that's got some clinical background that's advising you on
Yes.
doing this. And that is something that clearly we're all going to need to better understand going forward.
And there are certain authorities on this stuff. I feel our authorities, I don't know, like they're not state recognized authorities, but they've been in the business for quite a long time. They've grown the mushrooms for a long time. So they're very aware of the different potency levels, because there are different strains of mushrooms, just like there's different strains of cannabis. And some could be better for treating certain conditions than others. And so all that stuff needs to be looked at. And I know that the FDA granted psilocybin breakthrough therapy status. So I know in Portland, they've been doing some very incredible studies, but I don't know how to find their research until after they've published it in a medical journal.
Thank you for your indulgence.
Is there anyone else?
Can I make one more comment?
Absolutely.
I want to follow up on your question. So what he was referring to microdosing versus macrodosing, and I plan on going that. But so macrodosing is taking a larger amount, and due to the psychotropic experience, where people have these great spiritual experiences and are like they're somewhat dramatic, and that is really what the regulations and rules are. Not microdosing. Someone macrodosing on their own without a therapist involved or trained by a practitioner is shooting in the dark. And frankly, microdosing is shooting in the dark too, but it has very minimal subtle effects similar to like a lexapro or Prozac. And the microdosing could possibly replace that. It does not require as many doses, which is interesting. Macrodoses are the way people are doing it, are doing these sessions, and typically on most in the clinic, 4 to 8 hours with a therapist, and it could maybe go a lot of times do it in virtual, with a blindfold, music playing, you go on these experiences and sometimes tap into things that they didn't realize in their past, like in dramatic instances that were causing anxiety and depression. There is a Netflix series called How to Change Your Mind that's come out based on a book about psychedelic therapies. It's very interesting. Interested in more of this, you should watch it because it has OT patients, end of life patients that go through these experiences with qualified clinicians and have these turnarounds. I'm microdosing addressed in the regulations so people can get prescriptions on the site, but that is it.
Yeah, so now you've opened this door.
Sure.
And so now I have to ask you, what were your qualifications for all the things that you just stated?
I have been doing research. I can provide you, if you would like, I can send
So
you
no more than mine.
a lot more than yours. Yeah, I've been doing research and have experience in microdosing and macrodosing in my lifetime.
Okay.
And I have been reading articles in the New York Times. I've been watching what the government has been doing. Typically Republican, conservative, Texas governors are now saying, hey, we need to do something, include psilocybin in psychedelic therapies, allow this to happen. Recently, Democrat and Republican coalition trying to get this federal level approved for research companies. I've watched countless movies on and read countless articles. So I'm assuming you have because you're asking me those kind of questions. Now, I'm not trying to be.
I'm just asking what your qualifications were to cite, the therapy. And
Yeah.
again, I can read all the things that you're reading and
Yeah.
so-
You have read all the things.
we're not going to get into that debate. I'm just asking for your qualifications. If you're going to talk about therapeutic level of prescriptions and so forth, again, I want to hear from people that are in the business therapeutically of doing that. And that's not where we are right now. So
Yeah.
you've described yourself as a business person with an interest in business. So I take that at full faith. And we both can have access to watching Netflix and reading New York Times articles. So we're on the same page there. The difference is you're describing now that you have been dosing and I have not. So that's the difference.
And yes, and I also have colleagues that are licensed therapists in other states that have been part of their one specific friend of mine has been talking about this for 3 years. We've been talking a lot about this, which got me excited about the industry. One of the things that this practice is people to go on these retreats with key guidance.
Thank you.
Any further comment? With that, we will. Any conversation, discussion we'd like to have here?
No, I think I have everything I need.
I'd just like to say a couple things. I've stated some at a previous meeting, but I just want to, because I know the public is concerned about this as a potentially abused drug, and some folks do abuse it. I'm not going to say that they don't. This is different than Measure 110. This is different than methamphetamine. This is different than fentanyl. If I could eradicate those two drugs from the earth, snap a finger, I would. But psilocybin does have evidence-based, proven results that need further study and further exploration. There are dozens of peer-reviewed studies on this. The state has a site. It's called the Review References from mainstream peer-reviewed journals. So the evidence is so overwhelming that the FDA has declared this a breakthrough treatment. And of course, that process will take a while to study, and there will be difficulties with issuing studies given its Schedule I designation. I'm very convinced by the evidence thus far, and I do have some similar concerns as our speakers. First of all, we voted on this in Oregon, and we could potentially be asking people to vote for it twice more on the same ballot for different jurisdictions, and it's confusing. And it's a bit of an overkill in terms of ballot measure, I think. I also have known Viola Industries a bit as a very good neighbor in Falls City. When I was mayor, I knew people who were employed there. There are very few employment opportunities around Falls City. The idea of 10 more jobs to folks who could work up in those hills is very appealing to me. And I worry as well about rural equity here. If we ban it for 2 years or indefinitely, folks who need the treatment in this vicinity will likely miss out on the treatment. And the treatment has been effective for major depressive disorder, PTSD, and addictions to the hard addictive drugs that are really doing damage. I'm not seeing people filling our jails with psilocybin disorders or addiction consequences. So I'd rather not send this to ballot. And I have every confidence that our community development department and we as a board could place time, manner, place restrictions should those be necessary. So, but with that, if the board decides to move it forward to ballot, I will support that. There are just some tweaks to the ballot language I would like to make that do highlight that this is for medicinal purposes, not simply as a recreation.
And I will go on to say that I'm almost exactly in the opposite position that you are. I'm sure that's not a surprise to a lot of people. And I actually do support a ballot title that is a flat prohibition without a temporary restriction. And because of the fact that this board can change it when we find adequate evidence that the systems are in place to mitigate any of the concerns we have. I don't see the ask of the voters to be that egregious. Honestly, I believe if we were able to make our case and put Measure 110 back on the ballot, we'd probably reverse it. So I have respect that there's always an opportunity to change how we've done things. And honestly, I just don't think we're there yet. We're just not ready to do the things that I think Measure 109 is asking for. And I would like to see the state do this in a more measured way and in a way that actually demonstrates the integrity that the ballot title there said that they were going to demonstrate. But so far, the state hasn't done that. The state hasn't done a great job, even with regard to marijuana licensing and the challenges we have there. And those that are in production would and just distribution would concur. There's a lot of problems still with marijuana production and marijuana law. So I think that we're trying to hurry this thing, and I'm really interested in seeing it appropriately laid out so that we can let science and clinicians engage in this process in a more measured way.
And I'm somewhere in the middle. So I agree with both. Yeah, my biggest challenge is the state comes in with no guidance, no rules, no foundation to follow, but then wants to pass this blindly. That I have an issue with. So we'll close this public hearing as of now. We're making decisions, I believe, next week.
What you need to do is give staff direction today. So you need to essentially vote which direction you want staff to look at. So if you want to basically opt in and not put anything on the ballot, that's one decision. Then we don't have to do any more as staff. We just wait for the OHA rules, and then we address time, place, manner, all that stuff when we have something to go off of. If you want to put something on the ballot, then you need to give us direction of whether you want it temporary or permanent. You have draft stuff in there. The draft needs to be tweaked, both on a number of things, but it's not too far off. So what we need is direction from the board. So it's basically not put it on the ballot, put it on the ballot as a temporary, or put it on the ballot as a permanent. Those are kind of your three options. And the temporary can be 1 year, 3 years, whatever. Most jurisdictions, like Morgan said, is 2 years. So someone needs to make a motion kind of and move staff in the proper direction.
I make my argument already for the permanent ban and reminding again that we have the ability to undo that. The temporary ban, when it ends, it ends. And there's, from what I've gotten so far, there is no pathway for the board to say, wait, it's still not ready. So with the permanent ban, we do have the authority to lift that ban.
Regardless, we have the ability to place time, place and manner restrictions.
Either way.
We wouldn't be powerless if a ban.
Well, yeah, in excess of the state's regulation.
Yeah, which would probably be the route if we were to take.
So, well, my motion is for a permanent ban.
Let it ride. Let it go. So,
Let it go, but to consider time, place, and manner ordinances of our own, depending on what the state comes up with. The indications I'm getting from the state are that, this obviously won't be, you can't just put up a clinic next to every school in Oregon. There's going to be restrictions on that. And if we need to make those more strict, we have the ability to do that. That's why I feel comfortable doing it.
well, right now, all we are voting on is to keep it out of rural County. Cities will still get to have their own personal votes. Majority of them are putting it to the voters. Accepted it.
And Polk City.
And Polk City. So you will be able to get this drug administered, and you'll have access to those people who need it in those locations. Just we need the businesses out in rural Polk County, and that's where I'm afraid I may have to go with and I'll second the motion. I don't know about the permanent ban. But at the same time, the permanent ban, we as a board can change this once we get the rules and regulations and find out what kind of guideline the city or the state is going to have on these businesses. Which is something I find still very hard to accept when they want us to pass something with absolutely no rules or regulations in place. I just can't do that. So I'm going to vote.
So you had a motion and a second, but we need to take a vote.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I'd say to those who came to speak in favor, this is also an opportunity to speak to voters. This gives you a little time, speak to neighbors and try to make your case to the voters.
And this isn't that by any means. So we will be watching this and staying focused. If you see information, please share it with us.
Because I have a lot of people who have actually used this medicine.
We understand it. You'll still have access to that in Monmouth and Fall City at this time, and then Independence and Salem may pass that as well. In the cities, you'll still have access to that medication.
If it passes the
If it
voters,
passes the voters.
there is no guarantee on it.
It's still unknown where it can be manufactured. If it's on EFU land only, which would prohibit Polk County from manufacturing it. I would imagine the clinics could be in cities, but it's possible that the manufacturer can only be in EFU. We just don't know yet what those land use restrictions will be. We'll look at those as in the public.
I mean, FDA thinks it's a good thing.
As we find out more, we can change this. Do we have a need for an executive session today?
You want to? Yeah, I do.
We do.
For labor negotiations.
Okay. At this time, the
What, you have to read?
Morgan, you gonna be able to recite that?
Yeah, the board will not meet in executive session pursuant to OS 192-660-2H, conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations.
need